should have applied more first. It is Monday, July 12th. This is the meeting of the Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Committee of the City of Twinsburg. It is now 6:05 p.m. We're calling the meeting to order. Welcome. It is really nice to see all these faces in the gallery. So welcome all of our guests. So first things first, we're going to call roll. Emmanuel Ogbovic, I believe is on vacation. Crystal Davis. Here. Akil Hamid. Asia James.
Here.
Andrea Stone.
Here.
Jeffrey Tyus.
Here.
Ted Yates.
Here.
Greg Bellin. Maureen Stouffer.
Here.
Daisy Walker.
Present.
David Maestros.
Here.
Larnie Zellner.
Here.
Jeremy Mahoric.
Here.
Michael Brown.
Here.
Shannon Collins. All right, now I see we have a nice amount of folks in the gallery. Shannon, did we have anyone sign up to speak in advance? Well, for those of you who have not yet attended one of these meetings, while we do our best to stand on ceremony, we don't do a great job of it, or at least I don't. So if there are some of you in the crowd that would like 2 to 3 minutes to speak, to share anything, you're certainly welcome to do so right now. Anybody? Last call for public comment. All right. Moving on to our subcommittee reports. Mr. Tyus, will you give us the Justice and Police Relations Subcommittee report, please?
Yes, so I sent out an email towards the end of last week asking everyone to review the documents that Sergeant Donato, Brian Donato, provided for us. During our meeting, we had an opportunity to review the social media policy for our safety forces, supervisor training, the Ohio Collaborative Community Police Advisory Board, and the policy that looks at personnel complaints. Sergeant Donato, did you want to provide just a quick summary for those four? I know I'm putting you on the spot.
I really wasn't prepared, but I could if you like.
Just a quick summary of those 4 areas that we addressed. Yes.
First policy was personnel complaints that we covered, or one of the policies. Basically, anybody has a complaint, they can come to the police department at any time, any other city building, or online. They could do it over the phone. Basically, if anybody has a complaint, we'll take it any way you can get it. The policy outlines how those investigations are going to take place. The social media policies, one covers social media for the department use and social media for personal use. And the Ohio Collaborative is a set up by the governor, state of Ohio, the police commission, gives outlines of what policies each department should take and which our department is taking. It's either in process or we're getting renewed for the policy updates. We went through that at the meeting. And the last thing that we covered was training for officers in the basic patrol track, advanced patrol track, criminal investigator track, which would be our detectives, and the last thing was the supervisors, the track for the supervisors.
All right.
Does that cover it?
Yes.
All right.
Does anyone have any questions while Sergeant Donato is still at the podium?
Sergeant Donato, of course, I have one for you.
Okay.
I'm looking at the basic patrol track,
Yes.
and there are 1 or 2 elective courses that just, as a citizen, feel like perhaps they should be core. I'm looking at arrest, search, and seizure, and active shooter. Right, you know, our kids do active shooter drills, so I would hope that our folks have that in their core. Is there a reason some of these are designated core and some are elective? Is it a time issue?
No, well, most of them now, as Officer Mahoric, we do active shooter in-house, so
Okay.
a lot of our training is done with, we actually use a you know, it's a collaborative with the school and stuff, so we use actual students, and we have used students in the past where we have an active shooter in the school. So a lot of these electives are covered by basic, you know, training that we handle in our department, so.
Jeremy, do you have anything to add? I see you nodding.
No, it was just a nodding in agreement. Yes, we've done, like you said, the full go of having it at the high school with students playing role players and yelling, screaming, kids, you know, having different injuries that they're describing to us, and we have to do our job with regards to those. We have to coordinate with FD, multiple FDs, and multiple police departments responding, because in a mass casualty situation like that, an active shooter, everybody's coming. So how that coordinates, our dispatch gets a great opportunity to try to tie in different bands on the radio so we can all communicate together. So it's not just a track for, you know, our basic patrolmen responding to an incident like that. It's our dispatchers getting some experience with that. So usually they have a full house of them getting an experience. A supervisor on duty has the opportunity to kind of run the show from a command standpoint of directing his guys from the exterior of how they're going to approach the situation. And that's kind of one shot at a scenario. What we do as a department is break things down on a smaller scale, so every officer has that opportunity to respond in a small aspect to handle that situation most appropriately. So breaking it down, and in the past 2 years ago now, we were down in a place called, the Alliance has a shoot house where they have open range, and then they have a shoot house, and we took advantage of some scenario-based training there, in which we were able to incorporate that. Instead of a mass one-time scenario, it's multiple scenarios that each officer gets to go through and handle themselves. So they get that personal experience instead of, well, I was just on the sidelines for this one and really wasn't involved. No, this, you're doing it, you're hands-on, so.
And then moving on with your second point, the search and seizure. We have in-service training that our law department puts together where they come in, and if there's something changes in the, you know, Supreme Court or something like that within the state, they'll come in, advise us on different laws that changed, and update everybody. So it's ongoing, even though it says here that it's an elective course, it's always ongoing. So,
Thank you.
does that help?
It does.
All right.
Any other questions?
Is it possible to make it a mandatory course though, regardless? I mean, is that something that you're looking for, that you're suggesting, is that these are mandatory courses and not kind of written in there as a mandatory course?
I think for me, some of these just seem like what you would encounter every day. So just making sure, and the way Jeremy's explaining it, and Sergeant Donato has, everybody's getting access to it. It's not like a college elective where maybe I'll take it. You
Right.
know, everybody's gonna get this. Thank you, Sergeant Donato.
Any other questions? I mean, that's pretty much it for our committee. You know, our committee for the past few months has been more exploratory for the committee to learn more about what the police do in our community. And so as we prepare for a little recess, our committee has been tasked with trying to figure out what steps, what action plans we're going to put forward, and we'll start those discussions in September. And we'll probably be working with the community outreach group to come up with some ideas on things that we can do collaboratively. So.
Does anybody have any questions for Jeff? Hearing none. If there's nothing to add, we will move on to the City Employment Diversity Subcommittee.
Yep.
Andrea?
We have no new news besides what we reported last time we met. I guess maybe the new news might be sitting out in the audience, but that's coming in intern duties. But otherwise, we don't have anything new to add.
Okay, great. Thank you. And then finally, the Community Outreach Subcommittee. Asia, I think you and I were gonna tag team this one in terms of updates. So we talked about a couple of things. We have initially talked about a video, and we were going to circle back with Mary Yates about the possibility of bringing that to fruition. I know you were gonna do some exploring. Were you able to dig into that at all?
I have not really dug into it in terms of defining it. I mean, I guess trying to see what the group wanted to do from a timing standpoint. Do we want to try to do something over the break as we plan it, or do you want me to try to, I mean, or the group and committee plan out kind of how it's going to look and be, and then we can, when we get back in at the end of the break, start working on it. So however you want me to do it.
Well, I think we have a quorum here. So let's open the floor for discussion.
Okay.
Does anybody have any thoughts on a timeline for a video? Kind of I think the basic tenet was a getting to know us video.
Yeah, and just to kind of brief, I just kind of suggested and to try to get, I think there's a lot of the community that doesn't really realize we're here or realize what we're doing. And it would just be nice to have something that we can get out to kind of explain who our members are, kind of the subcommittees we've been divided into. Nothing, you know, just very kind of basic, and just really introduce everyone and those roles, and put it in a video form that we can get out, you know, or if someone wanted to click on the website, what is JEDL about and who are its members, it would have kind of a snapshot. I think some could be really done professional that would, you know, just allow the residents to kind of have a connection more with the group and what we're trying to do. And it may help fill up the room a little bit more and get people more engaged. But we kind of talked about that last time. So, but, you know, I can start working on getting that set up, and then we can figure out, you know, how we want to, I guess, move forward with it. So, and I know Mark, I talked to Mark a little bit. Mark's willing to help, and, you know, we can talk more about whether we can do it in-house or, you know, whether we want to go out, have another party do it for us.
All right, so floor is open. Thoughts?
Is it too soon to ask for the 2 months that we'll have off, trying to do it during that time?
I think Lauren, go ahead.
I was just saying, I'm open to it. I'm open.
Yeah.
To it. If we find some time or agree on time, I'm open to it.
And Mary Yates, I think you were saying it would really be kind of just an informal format where you'd need people for 5, 10, 15 minutes worth of filming. So it doesn't sound like a huge time commitment, but correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, no, I guess, and the group can kind of talk about how they, you know, could picture this, but for me, I would visualize it being more of a dialogue type situation with maybe some questions that are prompted, and then just us as members just talking, you know, not really looking at a camera maybe, but just kind of just saying, well, here's been my experience and here's my background and here's what I'd like to see, or, you know, I mean, however it may be, we just have certain questions maybe for each member as it relates kind of the subcommittee they're part of and maybe an overall, but I picture it being kind of short and, you know, you may talk for 5 minutes, but at the end of the day, whoever's editing it may, you know, pull in together 2 or 3 or 4 minutes and make it all work together. At least been my experience of doing videos around here, so.
All right, any additional thoughts from the committee? All right, so it sounds like perhaps the chair could entertain a motion for a timeline. Mr. Tice.
I move that we try to get it completed over the next 2 months so that we can have it released maybe before our next full meeting or sometime shortly afterwards.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any second, thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, the motion carries.
So what I might ask is if, if we're talking about the subcommittees, and Asia, we can get together and talk about community outreach. Send me kind of maybe 2 or 3 questions that you think is appropriate to ask the members during that video, and we'll kind of maybe pick and choose how we, do that. Because I don't know that every member in the police subcommittee needs to answer all 3 questions. Maybe we have one person, if we have 3 questions and 3 subcommittee members, one maybe answer each questions in a short question, for a short video and stuff like that. So if each group could send me those 3 talking points, then we can maybe put together kind of a format that everybody can look at and approve.
Sounds great.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, so I'm going to gently nudge our chairs to pick that up and get back to the mayor the week.
That's fine.
Fair?
Yeah.
From a time perspective, does that sound good to you guys? Okay, great. All right. In addition to discussing the video, we talked a bit about opportunities to really get the community involved. There was some discussion about events that have been held in the past, like community potlucks, those kind of things. And then we had a community member attend who talked about doing a food truck day, which I'm always in favor of a food truck outing, but we had talked about a possible partnership with the township and using space around the square. If not, I know that there was some discussion of maybe Church Street, parking them along there. But the idea really is just to find fun, I would say low pressure opportunities for the community to interact, not just with Jedi, but with other leadership throughout the community, and really get people out and talking to each other and meeting their neighbors. So that idea was also floated, and I know that we had hoped to kind of come back to the larger committee with something a little more concrete, and I'm not sure that I could say we're there yet. But I think the general idea for the subcommittee is to really start the interactions with the community, and from there build into whatever that next step is. Be it retaining somebody to help us develop a survey, holding town halls, that kind of thing. But I think the first step the community relations committee talked about is actually engaging the community. Go ahead, Aisha.
If it was possible, I'm not sure how it works with Twin Days, but even having us like a booth or something there for a day with Jedi.
And I think that kind of tied in some with just creating a presence, right? So also, we had talked about with the headshots, having bios or other information online, and I don't think we got any further with that, other than that discussion. But I think the goal is to kind of get everybody to submit maybe a high-level biography that you would be comfortable having public, so people could see the committee members, see who we are, what we do, and why we're here. Asia, and was there anything else came out of that meeting that?
No, I think we really like the food truck idea and
We
kind of
love
stuck with that.
If you know me, you know that. All right, so I think when we reconvene in September, we'll really try to have something solid, but right now it looks like we're walking away with a video completion within the next 2 months, and I think that's a pretty solid takeaway.
Do you want me to talk with the Twins Day committee about a booth, or?
If that's on the table and we're not too late, I absolutely think so.
Okay.
I know, should we put that to a committee vote? We just get head nods at this point. Is there anybody who would not be in support of Jedi having a booth at Twins Day?
I'm trying to envision what the booth looks like. Are you talking about like a table and 2 pull-out chairs and we sit there in the heat? I'm not, I'm not trying to, if you're going to have a booth, then I think it needs to have some substance and some information and, a rotation of the committee members to be there and to answer questions and to have, the proper logos around, so we need to get flyers and flags and all the banners and whatever, so I don't mind having a booth, but I think that there needs to be some planning and some thought going into it about what that booth looks like and what the shape is. And so I have no problem with having a booth, but I do think that there needs to be more of a definition of what that is. And I think that goes into I have a comment for the community outreach Our last meeting, there was some discussion about what that community outreach stands for and what you guys are going to be looking at and doing, whether it was, you know, this, going out to meet in the community, or having, you know, there was multiple things that were discussed. And so I was just wondering if you guys were able to define, because I'm going back to this, give me 2 to 3 questions on what committee you are and what you stand for, and I don't know if we've even gotten there as far as the community outreach. And so, and I had comments that came to me the following day about what is this community outreach? How do we define this? You know, what should this stand for? And I'm still at the thought process that community outreach to me means that it's more of an event and doing events like the food truck, like getting something maybe on MLK Day, like, you know, celebrating Juneteenth, or other types of events where we can be out in the community or host something. And you know, that costs money and budget and all of that stuff. So I don't know where we are. We've never talked about budget with this committee and whether we even have one. So I just want us to be realistic about some things and about what we're doing, and first have some of these definitions defined. So.
Yeah, I don't think there's any disagreement there. I think the key for the community subcommittee is really to define what it is that we'd be asking for money for.
Right.
So I mean, it's absolutely, it's great to have a budget, but not if there's money set aside and there's no planning, right?
Well, I guess
So-
even with the, yeah, like with the food truck idea, it's like we invite food trucks to come in, and then we ask our community members to pay for the food of the food truck. Is that the idea?
There's actually no planning so far behind the idea. It was floated. So full disclosure, there are no bones on the skeleton yet. I think the only thing so far that we're ready to move forward with is the video.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, we've had very limited meetings in terms of being able to really, to work with, I mean, Keel was coaching track, and Asia's schedule has been crazy, and so I think, I agree with you, I think we kind of need to narrow down and define what that committee is going to do. And then, once we establish that, then, yeah, we have some ideas to talk about some things, but part of this, I think, is just our lack of being able to get together and really discuss things. You know, we had a community outreach meeting, and, I mean, I showed up and we had, it was, I think, me and Maureen, maybe, the 3 of us, or somebody else. It was,
It was probably Greg.
yeah, so, I mean, it's just, you know, hopefully, maybe Asia and I can get together and talk, and I can pull a Keel in, and we do need to define that, though. I agree, I think.
I think a little bit of it was just trying to understand where we were going as a group. So
Yeah.
you can't really define community outreach until we know where we're going as a group. So that was kind of like the hard part of it too, is seeing what everybody's doing and what the whole is.
If I may, I think that's part of my consternation with going out in the community, talking about it, is we don't know what we're doing, but we're talking about we're here. And I think I'm conflicted about it, because I do want people to know we're here, but I'd be more proud and more confident about talking about we're here if I could tell them also what we're absolutely committing to doing. And so if there was an effort to have, and I understand with an hour-long meeting, it's really hard to gain the momentum necessary to have that tangible outcome to go confidently into the community. But if that requires a one-day retreat for us to work really hard to make the commitments and figure out what our work planning is to move forward, so that then we can have something tangible to discuss in both the video, on the website, with our bios. And so we're not just bringing our personal and professional credibility to this space, but also a commitment, then I would feel more confident about that. Even going and having a booth, it's a commitment to sit there and say, we're here, what are you doing? Well, we have some subcommittees. And so what I'd like to do is to be able to say, we have subcommittees. We've been working, and you haven't heard from us because we really wanted to commit to being clear about what we're going to do. And so I think that I could scream from the rooftops once we've had that kind of meeting.
I love this idea. Thank you, Crystal. you know, I think it's one of the things that almost all new committees, I'm on the board of the bar. Friday is our new bar member retreat, right? We spend 4 or 5 hours locked in a room and you sort it out. I think one of the issues that we have had is the ability to get everybody around the table. And my fear with trying to do that at this point in the year is that we already have people, like we know he's gonna be gone for 2 months, right? We know that we're gonna have some limitations. So the question then becomes, are we willing to meet as large a group as we can be to hammer that out with the understanding that we're probably not gonna be at 100%? And I think if we're all on board, Crystal, it's a great idea. And I think we set some outcomes that we would like to have at the outset of the meeting, and we go to work. So-
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I didn't want to interrupt. I would agree with that if we had a professional that could come in as a diversity, I keep saying this, but somebody that could come in and actually give us some goals and objectives to actually hash out during this retreat. And so my proposal would be, I'm not talking about a consultant for another time, but I'm talking about somebody that can come in that day, actually perform the retreat, so we're sitting there for 4 hours being as productive as possible. And so I would propose to wait until we find that person and then see what their schedule is like, and if that is until September or October, that's what I would prefer, just to have more guidance, because I know at least in my subcommittee with the city employment, we have made some strides and have had some very good outcomes. And with the way that the departments are put together, it's like, where do we go now? Like how do we continue to improve and to be diverse and be equitable and all of that? So I know I personally would like that guidance. And so that's what I would propose. I have no problem with the retreat. Can it be happy hour retreat?
Again, things that I enjoy. No, I will say that, Andrea, and I don't want to cut you off, but Crystal, I feel like yours is more of a step one, like enter the threshold, and Andrea, yours is more of a step 3. So I feel like we really need some initial definitions that the entire committee is comfortable with, and then I absolutely think that once we're at the point where we are talking about bringing in a consultant and really doing, you know, the brass tacks of things, that it makes sense to start picking apart those pieces. But right now, this sounds like goal setting, goal and objective setting, and I feel like that's kind of 101. But if
I would
if
disagree.
I'm hearing that wrong.
No, I mean,
go ahead.
I would disagree with that, just because we have set our goals and objectives for our employment committee. I think that the police committee has set their goals and objectives, and I think that our overall definition of this committee sets out goals and objectives that we've already discussed. I think now we're to the point of how do we accomplish these goals and objectives. I think that the goals and objectives are a little bit simple, where we want to have an equitable, diverse community. In the workforce, in the community, on the police force, we already have those out there. I think the question is, how do we do that? And if the question is, how do we do that, and that's where we're stuck, that's where I need a professional to come in and say, hey, listen, this is how you achieve this. This is how you achieve that. And then that committee or that retreat is discussing, okay, which one are we going to tackle first? Which one are we going to tackle second? What are our timelines for this? Who's going to be the person that's going to go out and do this job and that job of that? So I kind of disagree, because I feel like, at least in my committee, I feel like we're, and I keep looking at him because he's a part of Looking at you. You're not looking back though. I don't know what's going on. Anyway, so I disagree, but you know, obviously this is a group decision, but that's kind of where I'm at.
You know, when we first started, there was an idea to go out and survey the community. I think that was supposed to be part of the community outreach group, but I don't think we actually came up with a plan of action to do that.
So I think part of the problem is, and this may just not be that everybody knows, we have had some challenges with meeting, because the two chairs both are extremely busy. So I think Andrea, you're correct in saying that 2 of the 3 are at goals and objectives, but the third one kind of seems like almost the driver for most of the initiatives that the other 2 want to do. So perhaps the retreat isn't the entire committee. It is for sure the Community Relations Subcommittee, because there's a lot of work that needs to be done in that space. And then anybody else who wants to come can come.
We have a,
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am, Ms. Williams.
I've heard goals have been set. I'm hearing objectives that you're trying to do. So, to me, if you could develop a bullet sheet that you have for each one of the 3 subcommittees with at least 2 objectives on there, then you have something to pass out and talk about, like what you're talking about. Then when you talk about a professional person, we've got a person here who does this for us, that I think we should take advantage of that and possibly take the bullet sheet, put it on the website, and work on a survey, because I think a survey, as you said, will give you a lot more information. But you all have put together some things for each one of your committees that I've gone to, that you can come up with 2 objectives that you're really looking at. Even explaining how you got to the word job. You know, that's your mission statement. And then come down with your objectives.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Michael, I'm going to look at you now because Andrea has been. Oh, I'm sorry. There's another hand. Sir, would you tell us your name, please?
Yes, my name is Bill Fury. I'm a city councilman here in Cleveland. Actually,
In Cleveland? Cleveland.
We're gonna rewind the tape for that part.
you were talking about you needed somebody possibly to be the professional consultant that could guide this meeting. And I would tell you that I would hope that you would consider Mike Brown to do that for you, because if you're looking for somebody to implement a plan long-term, I don't think he's going anywhere. I think he's doing an outstanding job. I highly support him, but he has the ability to guide those type of meetings as he's done internally for the city. And I would like to have you consider that as an option. And I do know that I live in Twinsburg.
Thank you, Mr. Fury.
As he's done internally for us, too.
Yes, we have had the pleasure of attending at least one of his workshops. So, Mr. Brown, I'm going to go ahead and put you on the spot because we have a couple of votes for you. Based upon what you've heard, what are your thoughts? What is your professional opinion?
First of all, I'm elated and thankful for those who have seen me to be able to implement this type of plan. It is something that I can do. It would be a lot of work, let me say that. And I say that in regards to my duties and responsibilities as, HR director here with the city. I'm not saying that it cannot be done. Let me, preface it by saying that currently I'm right now enrolled in a diversity and equity and inclusion course with Cornell University. And so, diversity has been a piece of my background in HR. Nothing that I have really moved forward in utilizing, because again, I've been utilizing all of my other HR skills here. But I'm willing to work with the committee and try to move that along. I'm also having the connections with some other cities and professionals, have the network to bring in some other people that will assist in that process. So, yes, and now y'all don't see my foot shaking under the table, but we'll be more than happy to kind of lead that retreat, that meeting, along with that implementation of that program, and we'll develop it in a enough time frame to get the word out. So, yes, I'll take it, and that's why I wasn't looking at Andrea, because I was.
Well, let me just say, I wasn't looking at you to put you. I completely agree with you. You didn't. I don't know if everybody in the audience knows your role, but he is the HR director for the city. So And he's also the chair of the City Employment Diversity Committee, and that's why I was looking at him. Because with what he's done inside the city, that goes directly to what our goals and objectives are for the city employment diversity. And so he has done an excellent job, and part of our success on our goals and objectives is because of Michael. I think it's great that he'd be willing to take this on, but I also think that he is swamped from every time I text him, he's like, I'm sorry, or email him, I'm sorry, I'm really busy. And I think doing this and doing it justice with his advice would be great, but I also think we should consider, getting somebody from outside to assist or to take on the bulk of it. But I heard that we might have an intern. I don't know.
It's all a part of my plan.
Yeah.
I'll just add that, again, like I said at the last meeting, we want to make sure that what we do is equitable. And so we don't want to put disproportionate burden on city staff just because we have an idea. And so I think I would love to pick Michael's brain, but I would also love to have a consultant maybe tweak our facilitation strategy or our facilitation guide. That doesn't mean that they have to sit at the meeting. I do this. I consult. I have a public affairs firm on the side, and I've done this for lots of clients. I'm not willing to do it here because I want to be a part of this committee. But I think we could talk to consultants who can help us come up with a facilitation guide that we could follow. They don't have to sit in the room and walk us through everything, but it'd be really pointed so then we can really be focused. It's not us sitting down in a room, and you know how it is when you get in a meeting. It's no shade to this committee. It's any committee you're on where it turns into a soliloquy about what somebody's grandma did, and then next thing you know, it's a 3-hour meeting on one part where we were supposed to get through an entire agenda. And so if somebody can give us a very detailed facilitation guide that says, look, 30 minutes on this is your objective, these are the questions you ask, this is what you need to fill in, and then they can help us to digest all of that material and have a report afterwards, we'd have something tangible. It just helps us move forward faster.
I absolutely agree. So what I would like to, I think, set out for the committee is to ask for volunteers to take on crafting whatever this is.
Well, before we do that, Lavelle, if I may, I have someone in mind that I think will be willing to help the city out.
Okay.
Let me make a couple of phone calls and email back out to the committee. I know we're going on break, but just to reach out to her. She has done diversity consulting. She's actually a diversity and inclusion officer for a major university here within the city of Cleveland, and so really good friends with her, as well as some other people that I think will be in line to help us kind of move this strategy along. So when I say I'll take the lead in as far as kind of helping to format what that looks like, but working with the professionals, other professionals like myself to make it happen, so that I'm not stretching myself too thin, but also moving the agenda of the committee along as everyone sees fit. So I will take that piece on to do that.
Thank you, Michael. We appreciate you. So we will table this pending the outcome of Michael's discussions, and look for an email from Michael as he has time. But this is a really good discussion. Thank you, everybody. All right. So anything else for or from the Community Relations Subcommittee?
No.
Okay, moving on. Our next agenda item is the intern. Michael?
Thank you. All right. So we have the opportunity to participate in the social justice practicum for Adler University, and I'm happy to announce that we have Jessica Sumarak, I think I pronounced your last name correctly, Sumarak, with us as our intern. Jessica and I had a very in-depth conversation about what the responsibilities would be of this role. She's very excited. I won't talk for her. I'll have her step to the podium and you can ask her any questions. But we have designed what that practicum will look like. I'm actually going to be reaching out to her advisor tomorrow, who just kind of scheduled the meeting with me on this evening to finalize things. And she will be working with each subcommittee moving forward to help do exactly kind of what we talked about, which is to develop those ideas from those objectives, initiatives to move them forward, work on any special projects that we have, do a lot of data research for us, as I know, maybe with the Justice and Police Relations Subcommittee, pulling data, especially for us, for employment, pulling data from different municipalities and kind of compiling that data together for the subcommittees to move those agenda items along and working with the full committee. So I'll have Jessica step up to the podium and you can ask her any questions. She's in her master's program for psychology. And then the thought is that she would work 8 to 10 hours per week with a total of 200 hours by February of next year.
Jessica, welcome.
Thank you.
Is there anything you'd like to say before we open the floor for questions?
Well, if I'd like to introduce myself real quick, tell you a little bit about me and how long I've been in Twinsburg. So I live here in Twinsburg. We've been living here for about 6 years with my husband and my 2 kiddos. I currently have a bachelor's in business administration from Kent State University. I also have an extensive work history, which is comprised mainly of leadership, business development, and relationship building. I then took some time off of my career to raise my youngest, and that worked out because the pandemic hit like within months of that happening, so everybody had to stay home anyways. During that time, I've chosen to get my master's degree in IO psychology, which is industrial organizational psychology. Please, during the questions, let me know if you need me to elaborate on that one. So it's a focus on training and development. And I'm going through Adler, which is one of the reasons I chose them, is because they have such a strong focus on social justice, to the point where at the end of every program, and I'm actually almost at the complete end of mine, I'm working on the last semester of my thesis, and I am finishing up my last class. I have 6 more weeks, so the internship will be the final piece of that. Every single student is required to do an internship, an unpaid internship in social justice arena. And I was very excited to find that this committee was established recently and I could actually work within my own community in this, so.
Wonderful, thank you. All right, who has questions for Jessica? Ms. Walker?
Hi, Jessica, thanks for reaching out to us. You were here probably around before 6 o'clock, because you were in here before I came in here. And what do you think about our discussion and our decision up to this point?
Can you
regarding this committee,
the committee?
Are we going in the right direction with where we're going?
I was able to witness this discussion. I also watched the full video of the discussion right before this one. I have not gone more in depth with the rest of the videos that are luckily online, so that was really nice. I'm glad that those are up there so I can kind of get a feel before I came. I think that the idea that Andrea and Crystal have brought to the table of having more organization and more goals and having as much outside reach as possible and is a really good direction, because I think you really need to get everything aligned as much as you can so that the discussion can be aligned and you can stay true to your goals. I think that's absolutely on par. The discussion about relationship building within the community, absolutely. The more information you can get about what the needs of every specific community are, the better, because every community has different variables. And so we need to account for those when we're discussing how we're going to make a difference in the social justice landscape in this community specifically. So I absolutely think the conversations are revolving around the correct areas.
Thank you. I see lots of smiles.
It's a good sign for me.
Who else has questions? Well, I anticipate this will be the last time you find this committee with this few questions for you. We appreciate your time. We are very excited to work with you. I think I speak for everybody in saying that. We can't wait for you to get started. So thank you for giving back to your community this way and for helping us make change here in Twinsburg.
Absolutely. Thank you for your time.
All right. Any unfinished business to cover? All right. I believe Mr. Tyus has some new business?
Oh.
New business miscellaneous.
Sure. At the end of our Justice and Police Relations Committee, a few of us were talking about ways that we can get to know one another outside of this room, more of a social gathering. And so the idea was to maybe, because I recently celebrated a birthday and we had a fish fry, was doing something along those lines, either, someone hosting something along the lines of a fish fry or something like that, or us meeting out somewhere, doing a happy hour. I think I heard a happy hour or something like that. Okay, so just as a means of this group, that's one way to bring the group closer together. So I had volunteered that I would do a fish fry at my place if people were interested. You don't have to be interested, we can go somewhere else, but since I came up with the idea, I said I would be the one to volunteer, and then someone else can take it the next time, and so forth and so forth. So.
I attended his first party, his 50th birthday party. Didn't want to say that, but the food was on point, so
yes.
we'll be in good hands with that.
Yes, at our meeting, I was telling everyone how I invited the police officers to, as a means of showing what this committee could be all about, as far as engaging the community with our police officers. And so I invited the police officers, and Larney was on daddy duty that night and unable to attend, but Jeremy was there and had a good time, and members of my family and friends enjoyed having him there, and the kids loved him as well. So,
Excellent.
So yes.
Well, I never turned down a fish fry. Yeah. So I think this is a great idea. I'm sure you probably don't want to announce your address to the recording, but perhaps we.
Well,
go ahead.
What could happen is if people are interested and we can find a date to do it, then I can send an email with that information out to others. So. Once again, I'm just throwing this out. We don't have to do it at all.
I'm seeing a lot of smiling and nodding. So I think as a collective, this feels like, I don't think we need to hold a vote here.
Okay.
Jeff, I think we all want to try to fish. So perhaps if you don't mind coordinating, we can set up a date and we'll make it a potluck, so it won't just be making your food. Yeah. So.
Daisy loves to cook, so.
What?
Said you love to cook.
Oh, I do.
There we go.
Yeah, we used to share recipes, so yeah. So yeah.
I just want to say that I invited the police over the other day as well.
Is that a different type of call?
Yes, it was, to get 2 baby raccoons off my front porch.
Oh my gosh.
And they came, and one of your officers picked them up and put them in a box. And you know which one it was. Now, I just want to know, did he keep them?
If I'm thinking of the right person, he is like the animal warden, and we'll just say he grew up differently than a lot of us.
Well, it was awesome. They did a great job.
That's great. Been a lot of cats and raccoons in the Twinsburg news as of late.
Yeah.
It's been an interesting summer. Okay. We do have at least one more piece of miscellaneous business. So Michael, I'm going to turn the microphone over to you. I don't know if you want to stay seated or rise to the podium. The floor is yours.
So I want to address an incident that occurred a couple of weeks ago. And I'm not sure how much this committee may know about the incident or may have heard about the incident, and I will share that off the record with the committee. But I want to just give this statement. When I joined the administration here with the city in October of last year, I was excited to take on the many challenges that would come my way as a director. My whole life I'd strive for this moment. Learning about the JEDI Committee and the new initiative implemented by council and the mayor made me even more excited to be a part of a place that was committed to changing what our entire nation was facing. I was impressed and inspired by the residents and their willingness to speak about the very issues that many diverse groups face in silence, and stood before 166 employees over 3 months addressing those very issues, training them on what diversity and inclusion really is. Over the last couple of months, I've watched this committee begin to make necessary progress, and the credit for that goes to individuals who see this not as a political scheme to inch their way into office or even to retain office, but who are committed to the work of driving change in the city in which they reside. Our approach to diversity, equity, and inclusion reflect a commitment shared across the city, across departments, across administration, and across council. However, even within that commitment, we must acknowledge those who may take and twist this work to fit their own agendas. Diversity is about people, the environments we work in, how we value and appreciate those who are unlike ourselves. Equity is the creation of opportunities for historically underserved populations to have equal access to and participate in resources normally afforded to the majority population. Inclusion is defined as active, intentional, and ongoing engagement, which allows individuals to connect with each other in ways that increase awareness, content knowledge, cognitive sophistication, and understanding of the situations and issues in which underserved populations function in. It brings into action an environment of involvement, respect, and connection where the richness of ideas, backgrounds, and perspectives come together to create value and overall success. I've sat back and read and heard how these definitions have been misused and ultimately undermine the work this committee really is trying to do. Hate crimes have surged 31% this year alone, with crimes against underrepresented populations doubling from previous years. Property crimes against Asians have tripled. The stigmatization of underrepresented groups has also increased, where Pacific Islanders and Asians have found themselves more afraid of racist violence than COVID-19, and this is reported by the Associated Press. The unfortunate piece is that these incidents, events that have been historically recognized, derogatory slang terms preserved for one particular underrepresented group, and other moments in which recent years experienced by members of this committee, other residents, and populations throughout cities, states, and our world have been compared to other media outlets that have no idea what it is to fight for their life. The moment I encountered some weeks ago is still very real in my mind as I try to understand how one thing can be compared to another. The work we are doing on this committee, a committee implemented by the council of this city and advised by 3 members of council and 3 members of administration, including myself, is very real. Underrepresented minority populations are fighting for their lives. They are attempting to create ways to simply breathe another day, and to think that this compares to any type of social media is outrageous. As the director of HR, I will stand up against any offensive language and/or action that is brought to me from an employee. That's my job, to investigate, to provide a sound and intelligent decision to the mayor. But I am also a human. I am not a boy, nor am I aggressive, argumentative, or arrogant. But I am a man, a father, a grandfather, a brother, an uncle, a pastor who pastors the largest African-American church in the city of Cleveland. I'm a friend, a mentor, a confidant, and a leader. I will not stand for disrespect nor the thought to compare a platform to the struggles of my ancestors, other underrepresented groups, or minorities. According to the new census information just released, the city of Twinsburg is the 92nd largest city in the state of Ohio, with 19,044 residents, and is growing at a rate of 0.5% annually. There are 1% Native Americans, 6% Asians, 15% African Americans, and 76% Caucasians, which make up this city. I must be honest, I'm worried. I'm worried about the disparaging and hurtful comments that may be directed at children, residents, and visitors, whether they are careless, cavalier, or intentional. This is bigger than community events and pop-up conversations. I encourage us as a committee to begin to dig into the real underlying diversity issues that are evident within this city and address those that every person, whether they live here or work here, feel welcomed, valued, appreciated, and wanted. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. I think it's unfortunate that you had to make the statement, but I'm very thankful that you did. So thank you for taking that time. Any additional miscellaneous business? All right, folks, we will be in recess until September 13th at 6:00 p.m. The time is now 7 p.m. and we are adjourned.